So what I'm planning to do in this video is give you some practical steps on how to revise for your November PPEs, but also your GCSEs in general for computer science. The first thing I'm going to start off with is how do you know how much you know? Now, each topic is going to be different. You will have different knowledge and different experiences of each topic, but not knowing what you don't know is in itself the biggest problem. So our revision must kind of focus in on not what you need to read, but how do you test yourself to ensure that you know the materials well enough in order to get the marks in the exam. Okay, so the cornerstone of revision has to be testing. Okay, and we will look at it practically how you can do that in this session. So what you will be doing is revising a topic. Now, that is something you will be familiar with. You read your flashcards, you read your mind maps, you read your Cornell notes, or whatever tool you use. The next step is to test your knowledge. Okay, this will be through maybe the read and cover techniques, and there's lots of techniques, and I'll go over those in a moment. You then apply your knowledge. Now, that is the secret step. Okay, it's a step that some people forget about, because memorizing facts is one thing, but trying exam questions and trying your knowledge in new contexts, which could appear in the exam, is actually really important, because that will allow you to then reflect on how much you know, how much could you do without support, how much could you remember, and then you can rag rate yourself on that topic. And then that feeds back into, well, which topic do you do next? Okay, so I'm going to kind of cover this idea in this video. So you might have your notes in many different formats. Okay, you could have it as a mind map as shown on the screen. Mind maps work really well for certain topics, like for example the operating system, where you can structure lots and lots of facts together in a meaningful way. You can obviously break those facts down. For example, like you see on the screen, I've got very specific condensed notes on this topic. Now, it might be used for flashcards, okay? And I know flashcards are incredibly popular, as is the website Quizlet. Brilliant website, absolutely encourage you to use it. Some people prefer writing notes, so you might use the Cornell note method. Now, I'm not going to spend time talking about Cornell method. If people would like me to, I'm happy to do a video on it. But for now, I'm just going to kind of give you the options, and it'll be up to you to choose which one you want to do. Okay, this isn't about making notes, by the way. So, what order do you revise things in? And that is a loaded question, and it's actually one that I know students really struggle with. Now, obviously, your teacher is going to give you some advice on what topics should revise first, then next, and all that kind of thing. But the thinking behind it actually becomes important as well. And the thinking behind it is really straightforward. Foundation learning. There's some topics that make absolutely zero sense until you know other topics. Okay, so for example, the FD cycle is all about fetching stuff from RAM. Okay, very simply. So if you don't know what RAM is, well, you've got no hope of understanding FD cycle. And this is the thing, choosing the right topics to revise first and being confident with those topics before trying to revise the stuff that link into it is really, really important. It may seem obvious, but has massive big implications on your revision, because if you try to revise FD cycle without understanding registers, it's not going to happen. If you try to revise while loops without understanding if statements, it's not going to happen. Okay, you have to make sure you revise things in a very specific order. Okay, make sure you're confident in the foundation learning. What is a CPU? What is registers? What is a memory address? What is RAM? Before you start learning things like what is virtual memory? What is the FD cycle? What is the LU? What's the register the LU uses? That kind of finer level detailed knowledge, which what is examined, let's face it, is based on the premise that you understand the foundation or knowledge such as what is RAM, what is a CPU, what is a variable, so on and so forth. Hopefully that makes sense. So the order matters is what I'm really trying to get across here. So again, as a little example, in order to understand variables, you kind of need to know working knowledge of what RAM is. In order to do conditions in if statements, you need to know what a variable is, because you can't do without it. In order to do loops, well, you need to know what a condition is. Well, you need to know what an if statement is in order to understand the condition. So you've got this kind of clear hierarchy. So long and short of it, if I said to you, Arrays are coming up on the exam. Okay, you need to revise arrays, and you open up your book to revise arrays, and you look at it and go, I don't understand this, I don't get it. The reason you probably don't get it is because there's probably a weakness earlier on, okay? Because arrays use loops, they go hand in hand, they absolutely go hand in hand. So if you don't understand the loop that's been used, the counter control loop to go over an array, well, you need to go back to loops and revise that. If that doesn't make sense, well, it's probably going to be something to do with your conditions and variable knowledge, okay? So you need to go take a step back and go back over those. So knowing the order of revision for topics is really, really, really important.